Love is simply one word. It's unspoken. The foundation of life. What is this all about? There is no greater narcotic on this planet. You can line them all up and it won't come close to the dopamine hit that you get from love. Because love don't even have to touch you to make you feel some kind of way special. Welcome back to the Art of Love with Dr.O, and I'm yours truly, Dr.O. All my love angels out there, I see you doing an amazing job out there in love land, recruiting new people to come into this family of love. You know, I really want everyone to understand something, and that is it feels good to be loved. But there is no greater feeling than the love that you give yourself. Because there's no one to blame but the person looking in the mirror. And I know you're going to be right by you. You know, a couple of months ago, I let all you love angels know that this Christmas should have been a little bit different, and that was it's okay to splurge on yourself, and no one's gift should cost more than yours. You know, it's not being selfish. It's just if you have people in your life that love you, they should understand that it's time for you to love you. You know, like I said before, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself, not even your kids, not even your wife, not even your significant other. How you understand how to love someone else is first to love thyself. And the closest thing to that, of course, is the creator of that in your life, and that would be your mom, if you had a good one, or whoever nurtured you through the understanding of life to get to the point to realize that this is what love feels like, and I need to give it to myself. Often enough, we reach out into the world expecting someone else to give that to us, and, you know, our mother gave us that dopamine hit of love, and we went out into the world and say, well, someone else is going to love me that way, and then we get disappointed when we don't find it, when the reality is you only get one soulmate. One soulmate. I know you guys are like, what do you mean one soulmate? Well, you only get one human being to grow inside of, to love you that way. And for you to expect someone else to come close to that is it's a little bit unfair to the person that you're inviting into your life. So you have to accept them for who they are, who they're not, and whoever they are at the altar is ultimately who they're going to be. So don't put too much stress on it. You know, there was a time when we had courtship, you know, the things that you couldn't see about this person that you was getting to know, maybe your mother, your brother, your sister, or the elders, they could see something. They knew you better than you knew yourself, and they knew that other person better than they knew themselves, and they knew ultimately if you guys were good for each other. The sad thing is that that doesn't exist anymore. Statistically speaking, that's the reason why a lot of marriages are not as successful as they should be, because we go into them with the wrong reasons, you know, a lot of wrong reasons. And the courtship back in the days eliminated all those negativism that exist in the marriages that don't succeed nowadays. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you look statistically about marriages, how many of them were successful versus now, chances are they're a lot more successful back then. But, of course, there are a lot more distractions, but distractions shouldn't distract you from loving the person that you say you're in love with. Make sure that you tune in every Wednesday at 8 o'clock and just get a nice taste of this love in Love Land. Love Angels, thank you. Once again, I appreciate you. And always remember, until next time, make sure that loving you is a priority thing for you to do. You know, you've asked for it. Y'all been talking about it. I've been hearing it out there in the air, in the streets, you know. I keep my ear to the street. And that is, you know, all right, there's a segment of the show that it's interesting. You know, it gives me an opportunity to get different opinions from different people. And that segment is called Let's Talk About It. You know, Love wants you to talk. If someone's yelling, that's not love. Love won't yell at you. As a matter of fact, I see a lot of people out there on the freeway driving fast and driving crazy. I often wonder who's in your life loving you. Because love will tell you to slow down so you can make it home. Especially if you got kids. You want to slow down and make it home. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back, all my love angels out there. We have a special guest on the Art of Love with DR.O. We have Money Mike from Profanity Nation. Money Mike, welcome.
Thank you, man. It's great to be here on the show.
You know, Mike, people respect your opinion about the games. You know, about sports and the history of sports, the directions of sports, and the past, presence of sport, and the future of it all. But I often hear a thing that rings out, and they say that it's somewhat slightly a hater. And I'm glad that you came to the show so that you can just go ahead and dissolve all the fictitious, all the rumors of you being a hater. Because I would like to believe that there's some love inside of
Man, it's always love inside of me, man. And no, I'm not a hater, but I'm a person that will point out um, and more in detail to things that people do in their performances. Like, for example, we're a sports show and Laker fans, so to we talk about stuff that people don't that don't come up on the stat sheets. It's a lot of stuff about what you do day to day. You know what I mean? Like it's a day to day thing you do, not overall.
it. But it just seems that sometimes you step on toes. Apologize
Yeah.
for
Well,
it. You can be unapologetic.
yeah. Well, I'm unapologetic about it because everybody wants to look at the whole picture and don't look at into detail. You know, and just from a relationship perspective, everybody could go and look at marriage as a whole. Oh, you've been married 25 years. You've been married 50 years. Oh, it's golden and stuff. But a lot of people don't get into just what the everyday, the day to day, the grind, the ups and downs
I'm looking at the
on
monitor here,
relationships.
and
Yeah.
there's a lot of people saying otherwise. Mike, you know, one of the questions that Steve from Monrovia is asking is, were you bullied when you were a kid or something? Where does all this haterade come from?
No, you know what? I wasn't. By no means was I bullied. I mean, I grew up in the times. I grew up in the '90s, so did people? That was a thing of the past where people would go and they would talk about you. You had to make sure your shoes were tight, your clothes were tight.
Okay.
I unfortunately have a name, last name that is always the butt of every joke. But I think that makes you tougher. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
when you endure certain things, it puts a armor and a force field around you, so that way it just prepares you to go on in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Are you single? Or are you
No, I've been married. It's about it'll be 15 years in February. You
15
know?
years in February?
Yeah,
So see that speaks for itself. You
yeah,
know, there has to be some love in that heart to be married to him for 15 years. So
yeah,
that within itself dissolves some of that.
yeah. You know what? This is why I say, look, being married is absolutely a wonderful thing. Uh, but I will say this that with marriage is not what you see on TV.
Do you think it's more a relationship or business?
It's both, 100%. It's 100% because see, I think that's one of the things. Let me just say, I think of what when I look at, I remember when I was young, I was about probably like 25 years old, and one thing I didn't understand was like there was a guy that I worked with, and it was a Filipino guy, and he would get a phone call, and he would be just talking his native language, like, and then
Mhm.
every time he would get off the phone with her, he would be like, he would take his pen, he would throw it, and he'd be like, "I hate that bitch."
Ouch.
And I never understood. Now, mind
Ouch.
you, at the time, I wasn't married, but what I didn't understand was that he had 2 kids by her. And so my in my mind, I'm like, "Okay, you went, you married this woman, you had 1 child, you had a second child, and then, of course, you got a divorce and everything fell out." My question always was, when did she become the bitch?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I feel that uh, people are who they are,
Right.
and I think what like my advice that I would give anybody before you marry, and
Listen up, love angels. Listen up.
before you
Listen
marry
up.
them, I said you need to find out what you do not like about that person and decide if you can deal with that. Because I'm gonna tell you, like, everybody
What if
thinks
they don't reveal that until
no, they
later on
know,
in the relationship? So
they
you're
know,
saying that most people know that
they
there's a
know,
stop sign there before they
they know.
get into it?
Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, everybody does it. They're great. They're wonderful. You have fun with them, but they just do little, things that just bothers you, annoys you. But what happens is you kind of weigh it out. Like you're like, oh, you know, these 90% of him is good. This 10%, you know, is this 10% is okay because the 90% of it's good.
Right.
I said, but listen, if you want to stay married, you need to decide if you can deal with that 10%, because that 10%
Yes.
is that day in,
Yes.
day out,
Yes.
and that's gonna rear his ugly head no matter what.
One of the things that I let all the love angels out there know is that I think that it should be a prerequisite that when you meet someone, ask them, "How are you loving yourself?"
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
And I'll piggyback on top of that. A lot of people need to understand themselves as a person. Like
right,
me, for example, I told my wife, I said, "Listen, I'm gonna take care of you. And if she came on the show, she'll tell you I told her this.
don't say nothing that's
No,
gonna
no,
get you in
no.
trouble, brother.
I told
I
her,
want
no, listen,
come on now.
I'm gonna tell you. And my wife would say the same thing. I told her, I said, listen, I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna go to work every day. I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna do everything you need. But listen, you're gonna have to help me. You're gonna have to keep up my glasses and my keys. I told her, I said, you're gonna have to do that.
That's not
Yeah,
asking too
but
much.
watch this. Watch how it goes, though. Watch how it goes.
Love angels, that's not asking too much, right?
Well, look, she
Okay,
said it wasn't either, though. She was
okay,
like, "I can do
okay,
that.
okay.
I keep track of your glasses and your keys and stuff."
Right.
And then we get married and cool, and we have a kid, and we have another kid, and now why I gotta keep up with your stuff? I
Ouch.
gotta keep up with my own stuff. I gotta follow
Ouch.
behind these
Ouch.
kids. I gotta do it.
Yes,
Why I gotta keep up
yes,
with your stuff? And then you know what
yes.
she said? She said, "Being married to you is like a walking scavenger hunt every day." That's what she
Ooh.
told me.
Hey,
And
hey,
I
but
shrugged.
I want you to know something.
What?
And love angels, let's be honest about this. You will stay in a relationship of that scavenger hunt because it is a scavenger hunt. But if you ever gave her a climactic ending to the story, then she'll close the book. You always want to keeps the relationship.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. I'm gonna tell you what the kid threw that with. She knew. I told her in the beginning. I let her know what my downfall is. A lot of people you have to know what your issue are.
Right. Yes.
What your problems are with yourself,
And be honest
and
about
I'll
that.
be honest with you. And then when I told her that, does she get frustrated? Yeah. Does she? But I'm gonna tell you, she'll be so good. She lay in the bed. And, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for my my watch. Check downstairs in the living room. And I
Nice.
go in the living room, I'm like, "How'd you know?" That's because she knows me now, right?
Yes.
But it's still frustrating to her but I let her know beforehand, and she said that she could deal with
You wanna know something? Love angels, there's a lot of people out there that say Money Mike is a hater, but as you can see, there's a lot of love in him. So
that.
maybe
Absolutely.
maybe the haters are the hate that people see in you maybe might be the hate that's inside themselves,
Yeah,
and it's really
quite.
not you.
Yeah, well, quite possibly because because I look at it like this. I mean,
Right, possibly.
because the thing about it is like I obviously even on my podcast, my sports podcast, Playing Nation, I try to show love I'm always optimistic, rooting for the best.
Right.
But nobody likes to be called out on the negative stuff.
The truth. The
You're right.
truth the
You're
truth
right.
hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts when our entire lives we're subjected to a lot of lies, so when the truth shows up, it hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you have to go and just accept that. And then once you accept that, then you figure out how to go and get past it, you know what I mean? And then, that's I mean, like I said, 15 years, man, look, it's up, it's peaks and valleys, you go ups and
Mhm.
downs, and
Mhm.
then you just go cruise control.
Yeah.
And cruise control is
Autopilot.
good, and we come home and we have fun, we enjoy each other. It was so funny. One time, me and my wife were at like Costco getting some tires,
Uh-huh.
and the guy behind the counter was like, we're just laughing and joking and whatever. And the guy behind the counter was like, "You guys like each other? You guys really like
Right,
each other?"
right.
And,
That's so profound.
we're like,
That's so profound.
"Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I was confused though. I was
Yeah,
like,
but I understand what
are
he's saying because he sees so many couples where he
right?"
know that doesn't
I'm
exist,
like,
and
"Aren't
he was giving you a nice
yeah?
compliment.
Aren't we supposed to be liking each other?
Well,
We're around
yes,
each other every
but
day."
he don't see that every day. That's not every day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's true. It isn't. But I think, like I said, foundationally, you have to know what you're getting yourself into. Take all the superficialness away, and
Mhm.
just understand that you know, when you make that commitment, it's a real commitment.
United One Protection Services. With over 30 years of experience, United One Protection Services has more expertise and knowledge than the other security companies combined. Residential, commercial, municipal, or institutional, United One Protection Services does more than just security. We protect your livelihood. United One Protection Services.
Welcome back to the Art of Love with Dr. O, and I'm yours truly, Dr. O. To all my love angels out there, I really appreciate you putting in all that work, spreading the love, the good news. Today, I'm gonna give you some tools to help you spread the love. And ultimately, I always tell you the foundation of understanding that is truly from the understanding of love that you give to yourself. Um, you have several words that people use in relationship: passion, intimacy, commitment. Um, how many people really hold true to these words? The commitment that people make when you get married. Those vows are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. I mean, you made it to the altar and you're saying, I chose you to spend the rest of my life with. Out of all the 8 billion people on this planet, it's you that I desire more than anyone else. And it's for better or for worse. What is better? When times are good and life is giving us all the fruits of our labors. It's easy to sit in a convertible Bentley and wave out the window to your friends when life is good. That's the better. But I think that a lot of people miss the worst. If I lose it all and I don't have anything but you, are you willing to lay next to me underneath that park bench and share that newspaper to keep warm? See, these are the commitments that when you get married, these sacred vows, these oaths that we give to each other. These are the things that we're supposed to hold until death do us part. Statistically speaking, how many marriages make it until death do us part? There was a time, late 50s, 60s, where society promoted family values, you know, and minimum wage was set that a man could go to work. The wife could stay home with the kids because Lord knows, everybody knows that daycare is a house note now. You didn't have to worry about that because mama was able to stay home with the kids. They even made cartoons about it. Wait until your father get home. But all that's gone now. Minimum wage is 15,000 if you're lucky to get the hours, and a house is over 700,000. So one person can't do it. Two will argue, try to figure it out. It dang near takes three incomes to make it nowadays. But the love that you seek to find and hope to find in someone else, one first must give that to thyself. You can never find it in someone else if you don't understand what it means to find it within yourself. Another man's truth or woman's truth may not be yours. The greatest truth that one can give oneself is the knowledge and wisdom of understanding of the experiences that the individual has been through so that you can give that to yourself. You ever seen couples that everything seems so perfect and then you just get blindsided? What? They're getting a divorce? You got to be kidding me. How is it that they're getting divorced? They had the perfect family. And then you see some people like my parents, they uh they were sparring partners, man. They threw every day. They fought every day, man. And at the end of the day, they made up at night, and I guess that was their energy, and it was something that doesn't exist now, and that is until death did them part. It's really not death. We'll talk about that another time. It's actually a transition of life. See, but we'll talk about that another time. Scientifically, you can't kill energy, but until my parents went through the transition of life, they stayed together. Statistically speaking, the numbers are not good when it comes to couples staying together to that commitment of death actually doing us until we part with each other's. But if we looked at it from a spiritual aspect of things, a soulful aspect, and that is we're just bundles of energy that came to rest inside of a body that we call a shell. And scientifically proven you can't kill energy. So even in passing, the transition, some say they have been here before. You look at some people, some kids, you got an old soul. You run into somebody that you've never met, but it seemed like you've known them your entire life. Kudos to the people out there that actually found that special someone. Now, I don't mean to break anybody's heart when I say what I'm getting ready to say, but I always go to the nano level of things to understanding. And that is when it comes to soulmates, this is just me, and everybody else has their own opinion. But when it comes to soulmates, you truly only get one. You truly only get one soulmate on this planet. Now, there are many other planets out there in the world, but we're going to stay focused on this planet. On this planet, you get one. And the reason why I say that is because you only get one soul to grow inside of, to love you that way. And that would be your mom, if you had a good one. If you had a good one, you would know that nothing would even come close beyond the love that she's given you. As far as its soulmate goes, that's wishful thinking. And you hope that it will last a lifetime. But how often can you cross that bridge with someone? And like I said earlier before, statistically speaking, it's not favorable. And it's because I believe, like I said earlier, 50s and 60s society was geared towards keeping the family together. And now all that motivation just really isn't there. It really isn't there. And you can't let someone else's truths be yours. You have to find your own truth. And what's going on in your neighbor's house or your friend's house, don't bring that home and put it on the scale of judgment for your relationship. Because most of the knowledge that you acquire about other people's relationship is Instagram knowledge. You know, it's Facebook knowledge. Isn't it interesting how Facebook and Instagram, you always see people shining? Maybe we ought to come out with a site where it's just pure truth. You know, people can post when they're getting evicted. They can show pictures of and videos of their car being towed down the street. Because how much truth are you really getting on Instagram and Facebook and all these social media outlets, you know? And so you can't allow those truths that belong to other people to be yours. You have to be honest with yourself, because a lot of stuff that you see on social media, if you bring that home and put it on the scale of judgment for your relationship, it might ruin your relationship. You know, the only two people in that room, you and your significant other. And as long as you're honest with yourself and your significant other is honest with themselves, then you guys can share truth with each other. Welcome to the Art of Love with Dr. O, and I'm yours truly, Dr. O. And this week we're talking about, let's just ask Dr. O and see what he thinks about some of these questions that are coming in. Interesting. I love, this is one of the important parts of the show that I really like, because it allows me a personal communication with individuals one on one. So next question comes from Aaron from Los Angeles, California. Me and my wife in an open relationship. We play with each other, with other women together. I'm starting to believe that my wife is becoming jealous, and it makes me feel funny because she brought this whole situation to the table. One thing that I've learned about situations like this is that when a woman's in love with you, there's nothing that she won't do to please you. And even though she brought it to the table, she could have known that it was probably your desire inside of you. You know, unconsciously, you may have talked about it. You may be on different settings on your apps and stuff on your phone, computer, and, you know, she sees the way you look at certain movies and certain things. So she may have brought it up just to test the waters to see how you felt about it. You know, I had a client, he was a professional gentleman of leisure, and he told me that him and his wife went to Vegas, and this whole same scenario that you're asking me about, you know, she finally wanted to go to Vegas with him to be with another lady, and he said, "Art, I learned something." And this is something that you should take into consideration. He said, when I was in Vegas with my wife, everything was amazing. I I couldn't believe, that it was actually happening. I was so excited. The woman was extremely beautiful. My wife was into her. She was smiling. And, we went out to dinner, had a great time. And then we came back to the hotel room and we just eased into it. And everything was truly amazing. At least I thought it was. The smiles that I thought that my wife was giving me wasn't smiles that she was enjoying this. It was smiles of she knew that this was the desires of my heart. Even though they wasn't the desires of her heart, she loved me enough to want to see me happy. But at the same time, I enjoyed it a little bit too much. That I really believe that those smiles were smiles of enjoyment, that I was so far gone and caught up into it, I couldn't see that I was losing my wife in the midst of me enjoying such sweet pleasures. You know, Goldie told me, he said, Art, if you have someone that you love, never, ever put yourself in this situation unless you're willing to lose them, like I lost my wife. That's just food for thought. Food for thought. You have to remember when people love each other, there isn't anything they wouldn't do to please you. But sometimes we have to take it upon ourselves to say, what kind of effects will this have on our relationship? And remember those two-letter words that are extremely powerful. The older you get, the more use you find in using this word, and that is no. No. Now, I'm not going to advocate this or speak on it or encourage people to do this, but if this is a desire that you've always had, most people would say, well, you need to get that out of your system before you get married. But if it's something that you feel you need to get out of your system, I had another client that told me, Art, I love my wife. And as you can see, she loves me. I said, that's the obvious. You guys been married over 55 years, man. How did you do it? And if you ask his wife, she knows not only has her husband never cheated on her, nor has he even entertained the thought of doing such things. But when I took him to the back and spoke to him at the shampoo bowls, I said, how did you do it, man? 55 years. And at the time, I was just 2 years into a marriage. I said, I see all the distractions and the temptations that I get. How did you do it? 55 years. And I'm just 2 years in. He said, I love my wife. And I told him, I love my wife too. But how do you deal with the distractions and the temptations? He said, I love my kids. I told him I love my kids too. But how do you deal with the distractions and the temptations? He lifted his head up from the shampoo bowl, looked left, looked right, made sure nobody else was around, and he gave me the jewels. I'm not advocating this. I'm just telling you a simple story that actually happened. And you draw from it whatever you want to draw from it. 55 years married, and his wife knows without a shadow of a doubt that her husband never cheated on her, nor has he ever entertained a thought. When he lifted his head, he told me, Art, if I ever had anything to do, I went far away and I didn't tell no one. Well, how far is far away? If you don't feel comfortable enough to put on some flip-flops, tank tops, and a short and mow the lawn, and you're not scared about somebody seeing you, then you're not far enough away. But I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying, instead of you having a situation with your wife and not realizing that this will be the demise of your marriage, you might want to look at some alternatives and keep your marriage pure. Although there are others out there that would say, well, it's not pure if he's cheating. Well, that's in the eye of the beholder, and that's beyond between them and God. That's not our relationship. We focus on our relationship. We focus on us, on what's going on with us, because it's so much beyond us. It's so much going on within our relationship that if more people focused on loving themselves, their significant other, and what's going on in their relationship, I believe the world might be just a better place. Well, we've reached another segment of the show, and this is the closing aspect of the show. And, I just want to give you a little food that hopefully hold you until next week, and that is no sweeter joy than the love that you give yourself. The expectations of someone else doing that for you only hurts the person with the expectation. The other person isn't you to know how to love you, how you want to be loved. That's something for you to do. So until next time, you make sure that loving you is a priority thing for you to do.